to the show. Industry 4.0, also known as the fourth industrial revolution, has brought significant transformations in the manufacturing sector over the years, introducing smarter systems, efficient connectivity, and scalable innovations, all thanks to groundbreaking technologies. With the emergence of technologies like generative AI, a new phase of disruption is unfolding. To discuss some of the risks and opportunities emerging in this evolving landscape, we have with us Sundareshwar Krishnamurthy, Partner Risk Consulting, PwC India, and Sohrab Prakash, Head Audit and Assurance at Hero MotoCorp. Thank you for joining us on the show, gentlemen. I'll start off right away with you, Sundar. As a consultant who talks to so many people across the spectrum of companies, we are talking of Industry 4.0 right now. How do you and your clients see the whole gamut of risks as far as the manufacturing sector is concerned?
Sure, thanks, Sourav. So, if you really look at it, Industry 4.0 and automation, we can really dissect it in terms of pre-COVID and post-COVID.
That's right.
And pre-COVID, when you went and asked a client what do they really mean by Industry 4.0 and automation, the two words that usually came out was around we want to attain cost leadership and we want to be more efficient. We run a survey every other year with manufacturers, and what the survey told us post-pandemic is that the word Industry 4.0 and automation is now very, very related to resiliency and flexibility as opposed to efficiency and cost leadership. And in that context, if you dig a little deeper, most of this is powered by digital transformation. And when one builds a digital backbone for a manufacturer, there are three kinds of risks that they need to really watch out for. The first is, given the fact that everything will get interconnected and you generate a lot of data that you use for research and insights and planning and decision making, cybersecurity risks become very, very relevant. The second one is if you plug in a lot of technology, right, to automate many processes, your workforce who's working in the plant, most of them are blue collar workers, they probably don't understand how to use technology, and that can be prone to a lot of errors. And errors in a manufacturing setup or in a factory is actually catastrophic. So that's the second risk, which is in terms of skilling of the workforce to be able to leverage technology as opposed to be bound by, probably getting scared of technology. That's the second one. And the third one, which we all realized during COVID, is around supply chain, right? What one realized is as an organization, you are bound and you are related to the events that are happening in the world. Whether it's geopolitical, whether it is whatever is happening in Europe, whether it's to do with economic pressures that are there. And those pressures really have an impact on the way you really deal with your supply chain vendors. And you need to plan to make sure that outages at their end don't really impact your operation. So largely, I would put it in these three buckets. But sort of the interesting part is organizations who really go back to the drawing board and rethink risk at the beginning of a transformation exercise are able to identify opportunities for change and embrace these risks and manage them better, as opposed to organizations who face it and then have to deal with it. Right? So that's really what's panning out in the industry for.
So proactive rather than reactive, obviously, is the name of the game at this point. I'll come to you, Sohrab. You are part of a very exciting auto company in two-wheelers, which is doing a lot of new things. Technology is now at the heart of the auto sector. Absolutely. I mean, it's going to soon transform itself, sort of irrevocably now. What are the key risks you're saying? Like he mentioned, what are the key risks you are already grappling with, and how are you tackling the technology-led risks? And we'll come to different aspects of it during the conversation. But how are you looking at it from a broader spectrum?
So, as Sundar mentioned, I guess manufacturing has now changed to digital transformation. That's the key change. Now the risk is more holistic. It's not resting only in your manufacturing processes or in sales processes or in supply processes. It's holistic. If you see anything which impacts your sales, traces all its you can trace it back to your quality systems, your manufacturing systems, your supply systems. So it all works together. Also, if you see what is changing now, the way you're selling is also changing. Earlier, technology in a manufacturing company used to be only automation, IoT, stuff like that. Now the entire sales process is getting digitized. For example, we recently launched a very premium product, and the bookings were only open online. There's no sales happening at on your in your brick and mortar stores. So that brings about, since everything is connected, and also there is a lot of data transmission happening between the vehicle and your machine. So cybersecurity is probably now the biggest threat. Privacy is another risk, which is becoming more and more important. It is also a regulatory risk now. A lot of regulation is coming around privacy. So and also, since we are global operators, global regulations also apply to us. So yeah, so I would bucketize privacy and cybersecurity as our key focus areas currently.
Sundar, he's actually hit the nail on the head, because privacy and cybersecurity are the key risks which any manufacturing company or any company these days which is going through a digital transformation journey will face. Then there is this new animal called generative AI. That while it is a very, very big plus point for a lot of manufacturing companies, a lot of companies across the board, and we've in fact in Business Today had a full issue, whether it is a boon or a bane. We've said that friend or foe is what we asked about AI. And opinion is divided, as you well know. How is AI going to, across the board for your clients, particularly in the manufacturing sector, how is it changing the game? And we'll come to the risk also a little later.
Yeah, so I think, the opinion is still divided. There are naysayers as many as there are people who really think that it's going to add a lot of value. And time will only tell in terms of what eventually it's going to add in terms of value. But having said that, at a conceptual level, if we really look at it, it's the data sets that actually matter, and it's your ability to extract information and value from that data set that matters. So the value that we actually extract from it is dependent on us. If we believe that we can think out of the box and use generative AI to be able to perform tasks and activities which are probably repetitive in nature, which are probably predictable in nature, then we'll harness value out of it. But if we stand on the other side and say that, look, why do I need to go back and share my information? Why do I need to use this new technology? Like it happens for any new technology that comes in, you will only see the risk associated with it, and then the threat associated with it, and therefore you will not use it. So that's really how how the industry is really looking at it. I think having said that, I'll come from the risk standpoint of these new technologies, including cybersecurity and privacy. I think there are two cardinal principles. The first one is around the fact that whatever you may wish to do when it comes to risk management, whether it's cybersecurity or whether it's privacy, it needs to have a clear ownership from the board and the CEO with adequate funding, right? And that is the most important thing, both ownership and the funding, not one against the other. And the second one is, if the first one has happened, then come and embrace these principles of cybersecurity early in the game at a design stage, so that one is able to arrive at solutions that help you transform, that help you rethink your overall risk posture, and that also help you in terms of better automation. Right? So these two cardinal principles for anything are really applicable. And I think finally it comes down to the culture in the organization. If the culture is very control oriented, to say that, look, we will control what's actually happening and that's how we address risk, then it probably is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Right? If the culture is a lot more about, let's take it head on and let's embrace what's coming in front of us and identify the sweet spots for opportunities for us, then probably you will generate value for yourself and value for your customers.
True. You have some of the biggest clients, biggest companies as clients of PwC. Now, are you witnessing this change, this entire culture change of embracing and yet keeping the guardrails intact? Are you witnessing that, or is it just a race to who? I also notice, even as a journalist, bit of everybody wants to be a part of this AI revolution. But there are these risks, there are these guardrails required. Are you witnessing some of that? Because that's really where the risk lies, right?
Yeah. So I think at this point in time, it is, it's moved from knowledge sharing into deeper conversations to say what does it mean for us, right? When does it move from a conversation to a conversion of an idea and implementation is to be watched out for. So we are at that stage really at this point in time. Some of the larger organizations who have a better appetite to consume any pitfalls into their business model and move ahead are moving faster, right? And some of the smaller ones are probably looking at it in terms of a wait and watch. So that's really how the whole industry is kind of divided.
Sohrab, you are again a large auto company, a large two-wheeler maker, global. You talked about regulations. You talked about the various pitfalls in the data privacy space. What about AI? How is Hero MotoCorp embracing AI, and how are they guarding against the possible risks?
So at the moment, I would say that it's cautious optimism. We know where it can help us. For example, in our customer experience, processes, in our manufacturing processes also. Earlier, we've just moved from robotics. That used to be the big thing, and you've implemented it, and now suddenly it's much more than that. So I guess it's early days. We know where it can help us, and we are also recognizing the risk. At the moment, it's the risks with AI are in the unknown unknowns domain, because it's still early days. So yeah, I guess it's work in progress. But we know where it can help us. It can help us in our customer experience. It can help us in our manufacturing processes, in our quality processes. But early days is what I can say.
But equally, while technology could be, you need those guardrails, like you said.
Of course.
We, of course, also use technology for, to guard against risk. How is technology being used at Hero, for instance, to guard against the risks and ensure the brand promise, the brand proposition remains intact?
Yes, sir. So, for guarding against risk, again, what you're automating, you're also monitoring. So that is where and again, what you automate well, it also gives you a leverage for risk. Risk also is an opportunity. So companies which manage those well will reap its benefits. So yeah, so what we are trying to do is wherever we are doing a development, for example, any app we are developing, our customer-centric processes we are developing, we are guarding those apps against these privacy risks, these cybersecurity risks, and again ensuring a seamless customer experience. That is our forte, whereby the customer experience gets enhanced. But of course, the data gets protected, the risk of leakages is managed. And that's what we're trying to do.
And that's a constant effort, right?
That is a constant effort.
As you go online, like you said, your latest products are all being sold online.
Absolutely.
That's a huge opportunity, but at the same time, it's a
True.
risk.
So, for example, when you're developing something, we use what we call the secure development lifecycle. We have a SOC implemented. So we have analytics implemented. We have listening tools implemented. For example, brand is also a lot of brand gets distracted over social media these days.
Exactly.
So
We have seen some instances.
We have seen a lot of instances, and one bad article or bad news can distract your brand. So social media for us is very important now. We're listening to social media chatter. We are trying to grab or imbibe what people are saying, and then accordingly implement those in our processes.
Is that where AI also helps you?
It is. So it is, again I said, just being used, but we are hoping AI will greatly help us, because it will give us predictive analytics for sales forecasting, customer behavior is something where AI is going to, we hope AI will help us define those aspects.
One thing, Sundar, which a lot of companies need to do as we move to this very, very exciting new phase of Industry 4.0 is about skilling. Now, mismatch of skills is again a huge risk, which a lot of your companies, I'm sure, would be also talking about as you talk to them. How are you addressing that, and what are the companies doing as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, so I think this is a very important topic, not just at the ground level for organizations, but understanding of risk right at the board level is also a skilling that one needs to kind of undertake. Right? If you look at the composition of the board, and I'll start from there, largely it's chartered accountants who understand business well, who understand finance well, maybe a couple of advisors here and there thrown in who understand technology well, right? But do people understand the whole language of risk and what the opportunity that risk brings is something which is important. And what they expect is they expect us to communicate to them and de-jargonize everything and tell them in very simple terms because they're very, very smart in picking up these things. So that's one area that we're trying to work on in terms of communicating in a very simple language to the boards and the management. So that's one. The second is that there are certain practices as an employee that one needs to follow, and it's based on a policy, it's based on a guideline or whatever it is. But I think the moment you come down and say that you have to do a certain thing in a controlled way, human tendency is to do exactly the opposite. But if you tell a nice story around it, right, in terms of how it really matters, then probably people appreciate it. I can just quote an example of one of the large pharma clients, in fact. They realized that the biggest risk that they have is around their 3,500 distributors and their families who probably are on the internet with a lot of access to social media, and they are sharing a lot of data with these distributors for their business purposes. So they called us in to run a full program on training their entire family on what is it that needs to be adopted for secure internet usage, right? So there are various things that one could really do, but really there's no end to this because the moment you skill, there's a new technology that comes in, there's a new risk that's associated.
Disruption has become a daily grind, right?
Yeah, so it's so to say, I mean, it's as exciting as it can get.
That's true. Sohrab, I mean, coming back to this whole issue of skilling, also when you're looking at a customer base which is so widespread across the world, in fact, how are you looking at getting your sales force in particular adapt to newer technologies which are sort of disrupting technologies? How is that going to play out?
Yes, that's something which we think about a lot in our day-to-day conversations. Also, what again the entire upskilling from again and we as a company also sell a range of products in various segments. So our sales force also needs to get trained. Now, for example, we've recently launched an EV scooter. So again, how you're going to sell and that product is very different from how you're going to sell a commuter motorcycle or a scooter. So this entire process of upskilling sales force is something we have called in our company have something called the Hero Academy. So that is where we have processes to upskill the sales force, the service folks also, because that's where the technology changes. So for example, the technology changed from BS4 to BS6. Now you have new fuel norms coming in. You have EV coming in. We now have the Harley, which has come in. So all these products require a different skill set to sell and service, plus the digitization. So what we are using digitization a lot in upskilling our sales forces and our service folks. For example, we are giving them tabs as a tool to sell. We have screens in our showrooms to try and help explain features. Everything is connected. So data is connected, and information which is going into these devices is also managed by us and connected. That's how we use it.
Good you mentioned Harley, because that brings me to the next question. When you have international partners of the likes of Harley and others, do you also have sort of engage with them to understand their best practices on the risk management front, on the technology front, and how you can sort of dovetail that into your
Yes,
practice?
absolutely. So what happens is that it's a collaborative approach. Again, our mission is create, collaborate, inspire. So that's part of our DNA now. So there is a lot of exchange of ideas, exchange of thoughts, and also making it fit for purpose. What probably works for Harley in a particular geography may not work for us here. So try and see what works for us, and then implement that.
Sundar, I mean, we are coming down to the sort of end of our time here in terms of this conversation. But I wanted to ask you, as you engage with this plethora of clients across industries, but with with this whole disruption industry to 4.0 in mind, what are the two or three things you are telling each of them to keep in mind as the top priorities to engage and ensure that they get the best from this?
So I think the first thing is, as we have multiple technologies coming in, and as companies are going through this whole transformation exercise, we are really talking to them to say that let's go back to the drawing board on risk management. The whole approach of a risk register, which is static in nature, reviewed once in a year, is passé. It's not going to work. So let's go back to the drawing board and understand the value chain that you operate in and put the risks associated with that particular value chain. That's the first. The second thing that's actually coming up is that much of all of this can be solved using technology, but if you use it and if you know how to use it well, right? So we are talking to clients to understand where is it that they can plug in technology to make things work a little faster, where they can really use it for predictive analysis,
Yes.
and where they can really use it for better planning, and then address risks in that manner. That's the second aspect of it. The third aspect of it, which is in fact in these days the most favorite for us, is around scaling, right? Right from the board and the CEOs right down to the people down below, because that's when you really build a culture of the organization. So once the transformation exercise is complete, the culture is what takes you ahead.
Absolutely.
Right? So these are three things that we have to really talk about.
So, closing thoughts from you, Sohrab, on how this new look, in a new, dynamic environment is going to go forward.
I think we'll be a lot leaner, sharper, faster. The mantra now is change gears. So we are moving ahead with a lot of speed while ensuring that our controls and our risks are managed. So again, what we will strive for is quality, speed, and of course customer satisfaction. But managing our risks at the same time. And for us, I think our thought process is that if we manage our risks better, we will get a premium for that, both from our customers and our investors.
So, risk management, but yet taking advantage of all the opportunities this new world provides.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.